Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. The first example is really more like N2. All of them in N2 are just plug in and solve. The idea behind these is that you take the value, you're going to plug it in, and then you solve whatever your rational expression is. It's not very difficult. I would do maybe one or two by hand, even though they have decimals. If you make sure that I remember how to divide like you did back in 4th, 5th grade, make sure that you remember how to do that. And then I would go ahead and do the rest using a calculator, okay? If you use a solver for these, like I said, it's going to be way too easy and not the intent of the assignment. The intent of this is just to help you sharpen those skills that you should have had all the way through, but we get rusty from time to time, especially as you're starting to get into more advanced math. It's what you make mistakes in those adding and subtracting positives and negatives, adding and subtracting fractions, multiplying fractions. We forget all those rules and we don't try them. So this is your first one. If you're taking notes, you might want to try this one out. And we'll do this one all by hand so you see what I mean. And then after you do a couple of these and the rest, you can use a calculator for parts of it if you want. It's not that big a deal, but just make sure that you've got the basic skills down, right? So it says evaluate the expression for x equals 3.2. So what are we going to do? We're going to substitute 3.2 for x, right? So we plug it in wherever x was. We're going to put in a 3.2. And then this is a part that I say you do by hand. You take your numerator, you do 3.2 minus 7. You might be able to do it in your head. Anybody that can do it in their head. Or use a calculator for it. I would do a couple by hand. Let me see if I can get the, do I have it here? And pardon my writing, my finger doesn't work too well. So this is what I mean by doing it by hand. You would do 3.2 minus 7. So I know my answer is going to be negative. So I have to do 7 minus 3.2. Not trying to bore you, but this is where we make mistakes because we forget how to do this, right? So 7 minus 3.2 is 3.8, right? With me? Yes, no? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Find your icon. But remember, it should be negative, right? Because we had a negative. Negative was a bigger one, right? So it should be a negative 3.8. Got it, Anthony. Okay. So negative 3.8. And again, you don't have to do all of these by hand because it's going to take too long. But I would do a couple, 2 or 3, and once you remember, yeah, I got these right. If you're getting the wrong answer and it's a negative, then you know you need to pay more attention to your positives and negatives, right? So we simplify the numerator, we get negative 3.8. We do the same thing to the denominator now. So it's negative 3.2 plus 0.4. So my answer is going to be positive because the bigger one is a positive one. So it should be a positive 0.8. And then for this part, I would do, like I said, 1 or 2 by hand because these are the things we forget, right? How do we divide this by hand? Because it's like looking at it and you're like, huh? How do we do this? So that would be 0.8 divided by negative 3.8. I'm just going to put the negative on top here. I know the answer is going to be negative 3.8. And then I would go ahead and divide. If you don't remember, remember you have to move the decimal over this way one time, right? And if I did it over here, I have to move this one over here. So now my decimal is right here. And I move it up here. And then I would go ahead and divide. If you forgot how to do that by hand, I would do a couple of problems until I'm getting them right. And then I would go ahead and use a calculator because those are skills you're going to need going forward. Okay? So we go ahead and divide. We can calculate that. And we'll see that we get negative 4.75. Okay? So that is your first one. And then the rest, this is another one that's just like all of N2 is just like this. We're going to do the same thing, right? We're going to substitute wherever R is. We're going to plug in 7.9. So we plug in 7.9. And then as before, we start simplifying, right? We simplify the numerator. 7.9 minus 3. We get 4.9. and then we simplify the denominator. Remember order of operations. (7.9 minus 8). We get negative 0.1, right? We substitute, we simplify the parentheses first, and then we multiply. 5 times negative 0.1. And finally, we divide, right? So if I were doing this assignment on IXL, I'm going to do the first couple by hand, and then I'm going to use my calculator. Have your solver handy, because your solver will give you an answer in 1 second. So if you want to work out a couple and then use the solver to check your answer, that might make it a little easier for you to check your answers. Again, I would practice doing by hand and then try to do some of this in my head to start to sharpen your mental math skills, okay? And you can use your solver to check to see if what's in your head is the same thing that the solver gets. If it's not, then write it down. And just like you do your assignments, if you did it all in your head, just put a check mark, right? I don't want you to work or write more than you really have to. Because a lot of these are about mental math and making sure that you have to sharpen your skills, right? Most of this is mental math. Make sure you sharpen your skills. You remember order of operations. You remember how to multiply and divide positive and negative numbers and fractions. So the interesting one of these problems is the next one, which is going to be our last one. If you have questions on these, this is where you're probably going to need most of your practice, which is the fraction one, right? And notice how P here, we're substituting. If you're taking notes, by the way, did you guys finish taking notes on that one? I don't know if you did or if you didn't. Good, show me thumbs up, thumbs down. Need more time. Okay, I'll leave it up there for you. Genevieve. Okay, go to Anthony. So again, you see these are easy to figure out, okay? These are the ones that are kind of tricky, because these are the ones that I was saying are 2 or 3 problems in one, right? They're multiple parts. So I'll give you a minute to write it down, and then we'll go ahead and solve it. And they're going to look weird. These are called complex fractions, if you don't recall, okay? There are pieces that you're going to have to solve parts and then solve the other part, okay? This definitely, you want to use a solver and do it by parts. Whenever I say a solver, you know what I mean, right? Mathway or Symbol Lab or Photo Math or any of those. Remember, if you look at all those, they have the steps for you. And if you get one that you don't understand the steps, then go ahead and send it to me, right? Because it's not just about copying the steps. You have to understand what you're doing. These are skills that you are going to need one more time before you get your degree from college. So you want to make sure that you're clear on this stuff, so this doesn't become the bane of your existence. Some people really hate fractions, but I tell people you don't have to hate fractions. You just have to make, you don't have to be best friends, but you have to be able to walk down the same hallway, right, without getting into a fight. So you have to become friends with fractions. Become good friends, possibly. You don't have to be best friends, okay? All right, so let's take a look at this. First step, just like we did before, you're going to substitute your values in, or we're going to plug in 7/2. And that's going to make your fraction look weird, right? We're going to plug it in just like we did before and just write it down, right? So now that looks really, really strange. But there's really 3 problems here, right? You have a problem in the numerator, you have a problem in the denominator, and once you're done with both of those problems, you have an additional problem that you're going to have to solve, right? So it's really like 3 problems in one. So let's handle them one piece at a time. Let's deal with the numerator first. Notice the denominator, I didn't do anything, right? But there's a problem in the numerator. Eventually, you'll be doing these in your head, okay? So the problem is really that top part, which is 7/2 minus 8. In order for me to solve that, I have to get a common denominator. What's my common denominator going to be?
2.
2. Very good, Anthony. Okay. So now it's 8 over 1 is the same as what over 2?
16 over 2.
16. Good job. Right. 16 over 2. So now it's 7/2 minus 16/2. And the answer is 7 minus 16.
4. I get a 4.
It's the same thing as 16 minus 7, just negative, right?
-4.
16 minus 7 is?
Oh, well, 16 minus 7 is 8.
9, right? So it's going to be -9, though, because we had 7 minus 16, right? It's going to be negative 9 halves, right? So that becomes now my numerator, right? And now we have another problem in the denominator, right? So now we got to handle the denominator, right? So notice I left my numerator alone. Now I have to simplify the denominator, which is a separate problem, right? So this is negative 7 halves plus 7. 7 is 7 over 1. What's my common denominator going to be?
2.
Thought I heard it. I heard somebody said 2, right? So it's going to be 2. So 7 over 1 is the same as what over 2?
14.
14. Good job. So it's going to be the same as 14 over 2. So now I have negative 7 over 2 plus 14 over 2, which is going to give me, the bigger one is a positive, so it's going to be 7 over 2. Good. Good job, Anthony. 7 over 2. Okay? So it's 7 over 2, so that's going to be my denominator. So we've already done 2 problems, but we're not even done yet with this problem, right? Because now I've got a division that looks weird. That's my daughter. Say hi. So, yes? In a little bit. I'm almost done.
How long?
Like 20 minutes. Okay. Not really, guys. It's a lot shorter than that. All right. So now, oh, I thought she had left the room. She's still here. All right. So 7 over 2. So let's handle the last part, which is the division problem, right? Thank you. She's cute sometimes, not all the time. Genevieve says you're very cute. Yes, she sounds like a dragon right now. So last part, which is a division, complex fractions, right? You're going to see a lot of those. So now remember, we can rewrite this, and I didn't hide this for you step by step, but you guys can see it. When you have that big division bar, right, you can also rewrite it with the division symbol. See that over there, the division symbol? And remember that dividing is the same thing, that's my division symbol. Dividing is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. Notice we had 7 over 2, but when we change the symbol, we have to flip the fraction. And we multiply fractions across, right? So whether you multiply them first and then reduce, that's up to you. I usually reduce before I multiply because I like my fractions to stay small. Since I have a 2 in the numerator and a 2 in the denominator, I would cross them out like this. Since they're being multiplied, I can cancel them out. They both become 1s. So I would have a negative 9 over, a negative 9 over 7? Could that be a negative 9 over 7? Yeah. Did I forget the negative? Probably did. Yeah, it's a negative 9 over 7. I forgot the negative. Negative 9 over 7. And then that would be my answer, right? I would go ahead and put that over here. They don't get much more difficult than this, just so you guys know, okay? This is probably the hardest thing you're going to have to do. You're going to get a few of these towards, I think once you get into maybe the 70%, once you've got the first, I think they give you like little banners or something, red, blue, and then gold or something like that. So as you go through, they don't get any harder than this. It's just they add more negatives to them, okay? Any questions? Yes, no, maybe so. Thumbs up, thumbs down. All right, got it, Anthony. Genevieve, got it. All right, so in case you guys have any questions, and this is a really, really short lesson because there's not much here. This is the difficult part. When you get these types of questions that have the fractions, those are the ones that are going to take you a little bit. Again, do them by hand and understand each one's like 3 problems. So this one's going to take you a little bit of time once you get into the 70%. But N2 should not take you very long. The beginning part of N3 shouldn't take you very long. It's this part where you need to practice. And if you have questions or one doesn't work out right, then just send it to me through Gmail. I'll solve it for you and I'll send it back so then you guys can see the steps. Or if you need some time, I'm usually here for between 10:30 and 1:30. I'm usually on Zoom. I'll start putting those up because I keep on forgetting to put your classes where I'm going to be the Zoom link. I keep on forgetting, but I'll try to remember to put the links, especially now that we're headed towards the end. We don't have that much time left in the year, So make sure you stay up with your assignments. You might even want to try to get ahead on the assignments, so then you're done with this class already and you don't have to worry about this class anymore. But you guys have been doing a great job, and I'm very proud of you because you guys have started to catch up. So keep it up. I know it's hard, and this whole transition was very hard for a lot of people, so I understand. Just get it done. When you're done, send me an email, send me a picture of your work, and then that way I'll give you credit on the following Friday. Grades were updated on, hopefully they were updated today by Miss Garcia. I sent them to her late, so it's not her bad, it was my bad. I sent them to her late. I sent them to her on Monday. So they should be updated. If you did something else, it'll get updated this Friday. Okay? Any other questions, concerns? Yes, no, maybe so. Okie dokie, guys, and have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Okay? See you later, Anthony. Bye-bye. All right, Genevieve.